What happens when a struggling single father meets the one woman who could destroy his career with a single word? But instead, she fixes his tie and changes his life forever? Ethan Cole had 10 minutes to save everything. One interview, one chance, one shot at giving his daughter the life she deserved. But standing in that corporate hallway with trembling hands and a crooked tie, he was falling apart. Then she appeared. Victoria Hale, the CEO herself, powerful and untouchable. What she did next should have been impossible. What he felt should have been forbidden. Stay until the end to see how a single touch became a family. Like and comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights in the hallway buzzed like angry wasps, each flicker a reminder that Ethan Cole was running out of time. He stood before the men's room mirror, his reflection showing a man who looked like he'd aged a decade in the past 2 years. The tie, navy blue with thin silver stripes, the same one he'd worn to his wife Sarah's funeral, refused to cooperate. His fingers, calloused from late nights doing freelance graphic design after Lily fell asleep, fumbled with the silk fabric for the third time. "Come on," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. "Not today, please. Not today." The interview was scheduled for 2 p.m. It was 1:52. 8 minutes to pull himself together. 8 minutes to transform from the exhausted single father who'd spent the previous night helping his 10-year-old daughter finish a diorama of the solar system into someone Hailstone Marketing would actually want to hire. The door swung open behind him and Ethan's hands froze mid-knot. In the mirror, he watched a woman enter, tall, composed, wearing a charcoal gray suit that probably cost more than his monthly rent. She moved with the kind of confidence that came from never having to check price tags or wonder if the electricity bill would clear. "I'm sorry," Ethan said quickly, spinning around. "I thought this was the men's—" "It is." The woman's voice was smooth, measured, with just a hint of amusement. "But the women's room is being renovated, and I needed to fix my makeup before the 2 o'clock. Ethan's stomach dropped. The 2 o'clock. His 2 o'clock. "You're interviewing someone?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. She studied him with eyes the color of expensive cognac, sharp, assessing, missing nothing. A slight smile played at the corners of her mouth. "I'm interviewing 3 people, actually, creative director position. Though something tells me you already know that, Mr. Cole, Ethan Cole." He resisted the urge to wipe his sweating palm on his pants before extending his hand. "I'm your 2 p.m. Victoria Hale." Her handshake was firm, brief, professional. "CEO of Hailstone Marketing. And you're early, which I appreciate. But you might want to do something about that tie before we make this official." Ethan's hand flew to his collar, where the knot had somehow twisted into something that resembled a pretzel more than a Windsor. Heat crept up his neck. I'm usually better at this." "Usually?" Victoria's eyebrow arched, but there was kindness in the gesture, not mockery. "Usually I'm not interviewing for a job that could change my daughter's life." The words tumbled out before Ethan could stop them. Too honest, too raw, too much. But something shifted in Victoria's expression. The professional mask slipped just for a heartbeat, revealing something softer underneath. "How old is your daughter?" 10. Her name's Lily." Ethan's voice caught slightly. She's why I'm here. Why I need this." Victoria was quiet for a moment, her gaze dropping to Ethan's left hand, where the pale band of skin on his ring finger told its own story. She didn't ask about it. She didn't need to. "Here," she said, stepping closer. "Let me." Before Ethan could protest, Victoria reached up and began working on his tie. She was close enough that he could smell her perfume. Something elegant and subtle, like rain on cedar. Her fingers moved with practiced efficiency, loosening the knot he'd butchered, straightening the collar, starting over. "My father taught me this," she said, not looking at his face, focused on the task. "He said you could tell everything about a person by how they wore their tie. Sloppy meant careless, too tight meant rigid, but a tie worn with care, even if imperfect, showed someone who was trying." Ethan couldn't breathe. She was so close he could see the tiny flecks of gold in her brown eyes. could count the faint lines at the corners that suggested she smiled more than her serious demeanor implied. His heart hammered against his ribs, and he prayed she couldn't feel it through the fabric between them. There. Victoria smoothed down the tie, her fingers lingering just a moment longer than necessary. Perfect. She stepped back, but her eyes stayed on his, and in that moment something passed between them, something neither of them expected, and both of them felt. It was like standing too close to a fire, that awareness of heat without the burn, the knowledge that one step closer would change everything. "Miss Hale, Victoria," she interrupted softly. Victoria. Her name felt strange on his tongue, too intimate for someone he'd met 3 minutes ago. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet." The professional mask snapped back into place, but her eyes still held that warmth. "You still have to wow me in that conference room. Fair warning, though, Mr. Cole. I'm very hard to impress." She turned toward the door, her hand on the handle, but paused. Without looking back, she said, "One more thing. That story about your daughter, don't hide it in the interview. It's not a weakness. It's your strength." Then she was gone, leaving Ethan alone in the bathroom with his perfectly tied tie and a racing heart. The conference room was all glass and chrome, designed to intimidate. A massive table dominated the center, surrounded by sleek black chairs that probably cost more than Ethan's car. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, downtown sprawled in every direction, a concrete jungle of ambition and ruthless competition. Ethan sat across from Victoria and 2 other executives, a severe woman with glasses who introduced herself as Margaret Chen, head of operations, and a younger man named David Park, creative team lead. Between them sat Ethan's portfolio, looking shabby and inadequate next to the polished perfection of everything else in the room. "So, Mr. Cole," Margaret began, her voice clipped and efficient, "you've been freelancing for the past 2 years. Before that, you worked at Brennan and Associates for 6 years as a senior designer. Can you explain the gap?" Ethan's throat tightened. He'd practiced this answer 100 times. But sitting here under Margaret's scrutinizing gaze and Victoria's unreadable expression, the words felt hollow. "My wife passed away 2 years ago," he said quietly. "Cancer. She fought for 18 months, and during that time I needed flexibility to be there for her and for our daughter. After she died, I continued freelancing because Lily needed stability, needed me present. But I'm ready now to commit to something more." The room fell silent. Margaret's expression softened imperceptibly. David looked down at his notes, but Victoria leaned forward slightly, her attention complete and undivided. "I'm sorry for your loss," Victoria said, and unlike the hollow condolences Ethan had heard 1,000 times, these words felt genuine. "But I need to be direct with you. This position requires long hours, tight deadlines, and absolute dedication. How do I know you won't leave when things get difficult? When your daughter gets sick or has a school event?" It was a fair question, even if it stung. Ethan met her gaze steadily. "Because I've already lived through difficult. I've already learned how to balance impossible demands. When Sarah was sick, I maintained my workload, took care of a scared 8-year-old, and slept maybe 4 hours a night. I won't pretend I'll never need to leave early for a parent-teacher conference or take a sick day when Lily has the flu. But I'll also work harder, more efficiently, and with more focus than someone who doesn't understand what's truly at stake, because I do this for her. And that's not a weakness. It's my motivation to be exceptional." David's pen had stopped moving. Margaret's lips quirked into something that might have been approval, but Victoria's expression remained neutral, giving nothing away. "Walk us through your favorite project," Victoria said, gesturing to the portfolio. "Something that challenged you, something that mattered." Ethan flipped to a section near the middle, a complete rebrand he'd done for a local children's hospital. "This," he said. The hospital was losing donors, struggling with public perception. Their existing brand was clinical, cold, forgettable. They needed something that communicated hope without being saccharine, professionalism without being distant. He spread out the materials, letterhead, brochures, website mock-ups, the before and after logos. "I spent 2 weeks volunteering there before I designed anything. I watched the nurses, talked to families, played with kids in the waiting room. I learned that what they needed wasn't flash or cleverness. They needed truth. So I built everything around real photographs, real stories, real moments of connection between healers and patients. Victoria picked up one of the brochures, studying it carefully. Did it work? Donations increased 43% in the first quarter, Ethan said. But more than that, staff reported feeling seen. Parents said they felt less afraid. That mattered more than the numbers. Numbers always matter, Mr. Cole, Margaret interjected. Of course, Ethan agreed, but numbers follow authentic connection. People give to causes they believe in, causes that touch something real in them. You can't manipulate that. You can only facilitate it. Victoria set down the brochure, but Ethan noticed she'd placed it carefully, reverently, separate from the other materials. Tell me about Hailstone, she said. What do you know about us? What would you change? This was the test. Ethan had spent 3 sleepless nights researching the company, analyzing their campaigns, understanding their trajectory. He took a breath. Hailstone has grown rapidly in 5 years from a boutique agency to a serious competitor in the market. Your client list is impressive. Fortune 500 companies, political campaigns, tech startups going public. But your brand identity is confused. Margaret's eyes narrowed. David shifted uncomfortably. Victoria's expression didn't change, but Ethan saw her fingers still on the table, complete attention. He pressed on. You're trying to be everything to everyone. Your website showcases edgy, disruptive campaigns for tech clients alongside conservative, traditional work for financial institutions. Your social media presence is inconsistent, sometimes bold and controversial, sometimes cautiously professional. It's like you can't decide if you're the rebellious upstart or the established authority. And that confusion is keeping you from the next level. And you could fix that? Victoria's voice was soft, dangerous, like silk over steel. I think so, Ethan said honestly. You need to commit to your identity. Based on your growth trajectory and the caliber of your team, you're not the scrappy underdog anymore. You're a powerhouse. Embrace it. Your brand should reflect confidence, sophistication, and the kind of bold innovation that comes from security, not desperation. Make your competitors scramble to imitate you instead of the other way around. The silence stretched out, taut and electric. Ethan wondered if he'd gone too far, been too honest, crossed some invisible line that would cost him everything. Then Victoria smiled, a real smile. Not the professional mask, but something genuine and slightly dangerous. You have strong opinions, Mr. Cole. You asked for honesty. I did. She glanced at Margaret and David. Any other questions for Mr. Cole? They had plenty. Technical questions about software proficiency, situational questions about handling difficult clients, logistical questions about availability and salary expectations. Ethan answered them all, but his attention kept returning to Victoria, trying to read the woman who held his future in her perfectly manicured hands. Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably only 45 minutes, Victoria stood. Thank you for your time, Mr. Cole. We have 2 more interviews this afternoon, and we'll be making our decision by the end of the week. Someone from HR will be in touch. It was a dismissal, polite but firm. Ethan gathered his portfolio, shook hands with each of them, David's grip friendly, Margaret's efficient, Victoria's complicated. Her hand was warm, her shake brief, but her eyes held his for just a moment longer than professional courtesy required. Good luck, Mr. Cole, she said. Thank you, Ms. Hale. He was almost to the door when her voice stopped him. Ethan. He turned. She was still standing by the table, backlit by the cityscape, looking every inch the powerful executive who'd built an empire through intelligence and will. Your tie is crooked again. His hand flew to his collar, but she was smiling. That small, private smile that had nothing to do with business and everything to do with the moment they'd shared in the bathroom. Some things, she said softly, are harder to fix than others. Lily was doing homework at the kitchen table when Ethan finally made it home, her dark hair, so like Sarah's it sometimes hurt to look at, falling in a curtain over her math worksheet. She glanced up when he entered, her eyes, his eyes, blue-gray and perpetually curious, assessing him with the uncanny perception that children develop when they've learned too young that the world isn't safe. How'd it go? She asked, too casual, pretending she hadn't been worried. Ethan dropped his portfolio by the door and loosened the tie that had become a character in its own story. I don't know, sweetheart. I think it went well, but these things are hard to read. Did you remember to smile? Lily asked seriously. You look mean when you don't smile. I do not look mean. Dad, you totally do. You get this face? She contorted her features into an exaggerated scowl, like you're trying to solve a really hard math problem. Despite everything, Ethan laughed. I'll work on my smile, promise. Now, how was your day? Jessica Martinez told everyone I don't have a mom, Lily said, her voice going flat in that way that meant she was trying very hard not to cry. In front of the whole class, and when I told her to shut up, Mrs. Patterson gave me detention. Ethan's heart cracked. He crossed to the table and pulled Lily into his arms, feeling her small body trembling with the effort of holding back tears. I'm sorry, baby. People say stupid things sometimes. I just miss her, Lily whispered into his shoulder. And I hate that other kids get to have moms and I don't. It's not fair. No, Ethan agreed, his own throat tight. It's not fair at all. They stayed like that for a long moment, father and daughter holding each other against the unfairness of a world that had taken too much too soon. Eventually, Lily pulled back, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. If you get this job, she said, does that mean we'll have more money? Some, Ethan said carefully. Why? Can I take art classes? The after-school program starts next month, but it costs money. She looked down at her math worksheet, embarrassed. I know we can't afford stuff like that right now. Ethan felt something break and reform in his chest. If I get this job, you can take art classes. You can take whatever classes you want. Really? Hope blazed in her eyes, so bright and trusting it terrified him. Really, I promise. He helped her finish her math homework, made grilled cheese for dinner because the grocery budget wouldn't stretch until Friday, and tucked her in at 8:30 with a kiss on her forehead. Alone in the living room afterward, he opened his laptop to the emails he'd been avoiding. 3 bills, 2 spam messages, and one from an address he didn't recognize. Vele@hailstonemarkets.com. His heart stuttered. He clicked it open. Mr. Cole, thank you for your time this afternoon. Your insights into our brand were illuminating. I wanted to reach out personally before official channels to let you know that while we haven't made our final decision, you are our top candidate. Expect to hear from HR by Wednesday with next steps. Also, I did some research into the Children's Hospital rebrand you showed us. I called their director of development. She had nothing but extraordinary things to say about you, both your work and your character. She mentioned you refused to bill them for the full project, that you told her some things were more important than money. That kind of integrity is rare. Whatever happens with this position, I wanted you to know that you impressed us today. You impressed me. Professionally, Victoria Hale Ethan read it 3 times, searching for hidden meanings in every word choice, every comma placement. Professionally felt like a disclaimer, a boundary drawn in ink. But you impressed me felt personal, intimate, like the moment in the bathroom when she'd fixed his tie and the world had tilted sideways. He shouldn't respond. It was late, and anything he wrote now would be colored by exhaustion and stress and the strange, unsettling attraction he'd felt in that conference room. But his fingers were already typing. Ms. Hale, thank you for the email and for the kind words. The hospital project was personal. My wife spent her last weeks in their hospice wing. The staff there gave us dignity when we had nothing left but pain. I couldn't charge them what the work was worth because what they gave us was priceless. I appreciate the update, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. Regardless of the outcome, today reminded me why I love this work. So thank you for that. Respectfully, Ethan Cole. He hit send before he could overthink it, then immediately regretted it. Too much honesty, too much vulnerability. She was the CEO of a major marketing firm, not his therapist. His phone buzzed 30 seconds later. An email notification. Ethan, the work we do matters because of the people behind it. Never forget that, and never apologize for having a heart. Get some sleep. Wednesday will come faster than you think. V. Just V. Not Victoria or Ms. Hale, but something closer, something that felt like an invitation he wasn't sure he should accept. Ethan closed his laptop and sat in the dark living room, listening to the quiet sounds of his daughter sleeping down the hall, feeling the weight of hope and fear and something else, something dangerous and electric that had started with a crooked tie and a woman's unexpected kindness. Wednesday couldn't come fast enough, and yet he was terrified of what it would bring. The call came Tuesday morning, a full day early. Ethan was in the middle of a freelance project, redesigning menu boards for a local coffee shop that paid in cash and free lattes, when his phone rang. Unknown number, local area code. Hello? Mr. Cole. This is Jennifer from Hailstone Marketing's Human Resources Department. The voice was professionally cheerful, giving nothing away. Do you have a few minutes to talk? His stomach dropped to his knees. Of course. I'm pleased to offer you the position of creative director, pending background check and reference verification. Ms. Hale was very impressed with your interview, and the team is excited to have you on board. The salary is $95,000 annually, plus benefits, with a start date of 2 weeks from Monday. Does this work for you? $95,000. Ethan's freelancing brought in maybe $30,000 in a good year. This was everything. Art classes for Lily, a reliable car, maybe even a house instead of the cramped 2-bedroom apartment where Sarah's ghost still lived in every corner. Mr. Cole, are you still there? Yes, he managed, his voice rough. Yes, I'm here. I accept. Thank you. Thank you so much. Jennifer walked him through the paperwork, the timeline, the logistics. Ethan wrote it all down with shaking hands, barely processing the words. When the call ended, he sat in stunned silence for a full minute before the reality hit him. He'd done it. He'd actually done it. The celebration was quiet. Pizza for dinner, ice cream for dessert, Lily's shriek of joy when he told her about the art classes. They danced around the kitchen to bad pop music, and for the first time in 2 years, Ethan felt something that resembled happiness. That night, after Lily was asleep, another email arrived from Victoria. Ethan, Jennifer tells me you accepted. I'm glad. You were the right choice, and I don't say that lightly. I wanted to reach out personally to set some expectations. Hailstone is a demanding environment. We move fast, we expect excellence, and we don't accept excuses. But we also take care of our people. If you need to leave early for your daughter, you leave early. If you need a mental health day, you take it. All I ask is honesty and your best work. Everything else, we figure out together. You start in 2 weeks. Use that time to rest, to spend with Lily, to prepare. The work will be here when you arrive, and it will be relentless. I'm looking forward to working with you. Victoria Ethan stared at the screen, at the careful balance she'd struck between professional boundaries and personal warmth. He thought about that moment in the bathroom, about the way her fingers had felt against his collar, about the flash of something more in her eyes when she'd told him his tie was crooked. This was his boss, his CEO, the woman who could fire him with a word, who held his daughter's future in her hands. Whatever he'd felt in that hallway, whatever strange connection had sparked between them, it couldn't matter. It couldn't be allowed to exist. He typed a careful professional response, thanking her for the opportunity, promising his dedication, keeping everything appropriate and distant. But before he sent it, he deleted the last line and added something else. Thank you for seeing something in me I'd forgotten was there. Her response came minutes later, long after business hours, when CEOs should be home or at expensive dinners, not answering emails from new employees. We all lose ourselves sometimes. The trick is finding people who remind us who we were meant to be. Sleep well, Ethan. He didn't sleep well. He lay awake in the dark, thinking about Victoria Hale and the way the world had shifted when she'd touched his tie, wondering if she was awake too, wondering if she felt it, that dangerous, impossible pull that had nothing to do with business and everything to do with recognition. Two people who'd lost themselves finding each other in a corporate hallway at the exact moment they both needed saving. It was the beginning of something. Ethan could feel it in his bones, in the racing of his heart, in the way Wednesday morning suddenly felt too far away and too close all at once. The tie incident, he'd think later, was when everything changed. When the careful, controlled life he'd built started to crack open, letting in light and possibility and the terrifying prospect of feeling something again. But that night, he just lay in the dark and thought about brown eyes flecked with gold and fingers that had lingered too long on silk, and wondered what the hell he'd gotten himself into. The first day arrived wrapped in autumn rain, the kind that turned the city gray and made everything feel slightly unreal. Ethan stood in the lobby of Hailstone Marketing at 7:45 a.m., 15 minutes early, wearing the same navy tie that had started everything. His reflection in the polished elevator doors showed a man who looked more put together than he felt. Pressed shirt, clean-shaven, hair still damp from the nervous shower he'd taken at 6. The elevator dinged and Margaret Chen stepped out, her expression shifting from neutral to mildly surprised when she saw him. "Mr. Cole. Punctual. Good." She gestured for him to follow. "Your office is on the 4th floor, but Victoria wants to see you first. She likes to personally onboard new directors." Of course she did. Ethan's pulse kicked up as they rode to the top floor, watching the numbers climb. He hadn't seen Victoria since the interview, hadn't spoken to her except through carefully worded emails that maintained professional distance while somehow still feeling intimate in ways he couldn't quite define. Margaret led him through a maze of glass-walled offices and open workspace, past designers hunched over computers and account managers gesturing frantically on phone calls. The energy was electric, purposeful, nothing like the isolated quiet of freelancing from his kitchen table. Victoria's office occupied the corner, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a view of the city that probably cost more in rent than Ethan's entire apartment. She stood with her back to the door, phone pressed to her ear, her voice low and controlled. "I don't care what the client thinks they want, David. We're not compromising the integrity of the campaign because their CMO got cold feet. Either they trust us or they don't. And if they don't, there are a dozen other companies who will." A pause. "Good. Send me the revised proposal by noon." She ended the call and turned, and for just a moment, a single unguarded heartbeat, her professional mask slipped. Her eyes met Ethan's, and something flickered there, warm and dangerous, before she locked it down tight. "Ethan, welcome." She crossed to her desk, gesturing for him to sit. "Margaret, thank you. I'll bring him down in 20 minutes. Margaret nodded and disappeared, closing the door behind her with a soft click that felt unnervingly final. "How are you feeling?" Victoria asked, settling into her chair with the easy confidence of someone who'd spent years commanding rooms. "First day nerves?" "Terrified," Ethan admitted, then caught himself. Don't." She held up a hand, almost smiling. "Honesty, remember? That's what I hired you for. Well, that and your ability to see what others miss." She slid a folder across the desk. "This is the Meridian Tech account. 3-month campaign to rebrand their entire consumer line. Budget is substantial. Timeline is impossible. And the CEO is a nightmare who changes his mind every 48 hours. It's yours." Ethan opened the folder, scanning the brief. It was massive. Exactly the kind of high-stakes, high-visibility project that could make or break a career. "You're giving this to me on my first day?" "I'm throwing you into the deep end, yes." Victoria leaned back, studying him with those sharp, assessing eyes. "You told me in your interview that you work best under pressure. Let's test that theory. You'll have a team. Sarah Martinez handles accounts. James Wong is your lead designer, and I'll oversee the strategy personally. Questions?" About 1,000, but Ethan settled on the most important one. "Why me? You have senior people who know this company, who've worked with difficult clients. Why risk this on someone brand new?" Victoria was quiet for a moment, her fingers steepled beneath her chin. When she spoke, her voice was softer, more personal than he'd heard in a professional context. "Because safe choices don't transform companies, Ethan. They maintain them. And I didn't build Hailstone to maintain. I built it to lead." Her eyes held his, and he felt that same electric current from the bathroom, from the interview, from every email they'd exchanged. "I see something in you. Call it instinct. Call it experience. Call it whatever you want. But I'm betting on you. Don't make me regret it." The weight of her faith should have been crushing. Instead, it felt like oxygen. "I won't," he said quietly. "I promise." "Good." She stood, all business again. "Your team meeting is at 9. I expect daily updates, and if you hit a wall, you come to me directly. No struggling in silence. Understood?" "Understood." She walked him to the door, and as he passed, she said softly, "The tie looks good, by the way. You got it right this time." He paused, turned slightly. I practiced. Her smile was small, private, meant only for him. I know. The rest of the morning blurred into a chaos of introductions, system logins, and the overwhelming realization that he was actually here, actually doing this. Sarah Martinez turned out to be a sharp-tongued woman in her 30s who took no nonsense and had a laugh like breaking glass. James Wong was quiet, methodical, and possessed the kind of design instinct that made Ethan immediately want to learn from him. They gathered in a conference room at 9, and Ethan laid out the Meridian tech brief, watching their reactions. Anderson Meridian is a control freak, Sarah said bluntly. Last team that worked with him quit, all 3 of them. Then we won't be the last team, Ethan said. We'll be the team that figured him out. Walk me through his psychology. What does he actually want beneath what he says he wants? James pulled up previous campaigns on the screen. Validation. He came from nothing, built Meridian from a garage startup to a billion-dollar company. Every rebrand is about proving he's made it, that he belongs in rooms with old money and legacy brands. So we're not selling technology, Ethan said slowly, pieces clicking together. We're selling legitimacy, sophistication, the visual language of success. Sarah's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. You're saying we make him feel like he's already won. Exactly. We don't pitch him. We reflect back what he wants to see, that Meridian Tech isn't just innovative, it's established, powerful, permanent. They worked through lunch, through the afternoon, building a strategy that felt less like marketing and more like psychology. Ethan lost track of time until his phone buzzed at 5:30 with a text from Lily's after-school program director. Lily's ready for pickup. She did great in her first art class. Guilt crashed over him. He'd been so consumed by work he'd forgotten to arrange for Mrs. Chen next door to pick her up. He grabbed his jacket, already apologizing to Sarah and James. Family emergency? Sarah asked, no judgment in her voice. My daughter, I need to go, I'm sorry. Go, James said simply. We've got this. Ethan practically ran to the elevator, punching the button repeatedly as if it would make the car arrive faster. When the doors finally opened, Victoria was inside, her expression shifting from surprise to concern. Ethan? What's wrong? Nothing. Lily. I need to pick up Lily. Get in. She pressed the button for the lobby. Where? Franklin Elementary, but I'm driving you. You don't have to, Ethan. Her voice was firm, gentle, leaving no room for argument. Get in the car. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to Franklin Elementary in Victoria's sleek black Mercedes. Ethan could see Lily through the window, sitting on the steps with her backpack, and the relief nearly knocked him sideways. Thank you, he said, reaching for the door handle. Really, Go get her, Victoria said softly. I'll wait. Lily looked up as Ethan approached, her face cycling through relief, worry, and finally settling on curious suspicion when she noticed the expensive car idling at the curb. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I got caught up at work and forgot to call Mrs. Chen. It's okay. Lily stood, shouldering her backpack. Who's that? Ethan turned to see Victoria stepping out of the car, and his heart stopped. She shouldn't be here. This was too much, too personal, crossing lines they'd barely acknowledged existed. But Victoria approached with that easy confidence, crouching slightly to meet Lily's eye level. Hi, I'm Victoria. I work with your dad. Lily studied her with unnerving intensity. Are you his boss? I am. Did he do something wrong? Victoria's laugh was genuine, warm. No, actually, he had a really good first day. He just lost track of time, which happens to the best of us. Lily seemed to consider this, then looked at Ethan. She's pretty. Heat flooded Ethan's face. Lily, it's true, Lily said matter-of-factly. Mom always said we should tell the truth. Something flickered in Victoria's expression, pain, recognition, understanding. Your mom sounds like she was a wise woman. She was. Lily's voice went small. She died. I know. Your dad told me. I'm very sorry. They stood in the parking lot, this strange triangle of connection, and Ethan felt the ground shifting beneath him again. Victoria shouldn't be here. She shouldn't be talking to his daughter, shouldn't be looking at him with those eyes that saw too much,
Shouldn't be making this feel like something more than a boss giving an employee a ride. We should go, Ethan said quietly. Thank you for the ride, Victoria.
Actually, Victoria said, glancing between them, have you two eaten? There's a diner near here that makes the best grilled cheese.
Lily's eyes lit up.
We love grilled cheese.
Lily, Ms. Hale probably has. Plans, Victoria interrupted. I had plans, but they can wait. If you want to join me, that is. She was giving him an out, Ethan realized, making it his choice. And he should say no. Should thank her politely and take Lily home and maintain the careful professional distance that kept everything safe and simple. Dad, Lily whispered urgently. Say yes. So he did. The diner was a chrome and vinyl throwback, the kind of place that served coffee in heavy ceramic mugs and had a jukebox in the corner that probably still worked. They slid into a booth, Lily beside Ethan, Victoria across from them, and ordered 3 grilled cheese sandwiches and a basket of fries. So Lily, Victoria said, your dad mentioned you're taking art classes.
What kind of art? Lily's shyness evaporated, replaced by enthusiastic chatter about watercolors and perspective and how her teacher said she had a natural eye for color. Victoria listened with complete attention, asking questions that showed genuine interest, not the patronizing tone adults sometimes used with children. Ethan watched them, his heart doing complicated things in his chest. This woman who commanded boardrooms and built empires was sitting in a diner booth, laughing at Lily's story about accidentally painting the classroom hamster blue, looking more relaxed than he'd ever seen her. What about you? Lily asked suddenly. Do you have kids? The question landed like a stone in still water. Victoria's smile didn't falter, but Ethan saw the shadow pass behind her eyes. No, she said gently. No kids, just me and a very spoiled cat named Atticus. You should get a dog, Lily said with the absolute certainty of a 10-year-old. Dogs are better. Lily, Ethan warned. What? They are? Victoria laughed. Maybe you're right. I'll consider it. They ate and talked about nothing important, favorite movies, least favorite vegetables, whether homework should be illegal. It was easy, comfortable, like they'd done this 100 times before, like Victoria belonged in this booth, in this moment, in their lives. When the check came, Victoria grabbed it before Ethan could react. Please, he said. I invited you, she said firmly. My treat. Outside, the autumn evening had turned cool. Lily climbed into the back seat of the Mercedes, already half asleep from the combination of art class and grilled cheese. Victoria drove them home, navigating to the address Ethan provided without judgment of the neighborhood or the building that needed paint. Thank you, Ethan said as they pulled up. For everything. Today. The ride. Dinner. You didn't have to. I wanted to, Victoria said simply. She glanced in the rearview mirror at Lily, who dozed off completely. She's wonderful, Ethan. You're doing an amazing job with her. The praise hit somewhere tender. I'm trying. Some days I'm not sure I'm enough. You're more than enough. Victoria's hand moved like she might reach out and touch his, but she stopped herself. You should get her inside. It's late. Ethan nodded but didn't move. Victoria, what we're doing, is complicated, she finished softly. I know. We'll figure it out, one day at a time. He carried Lily inside, tucked her into bed still wearing her clothes because she was too tired to wake up for pajamas, and stood at his apartment window watching Victoria's taillights disappear into traffic. One day at a time. It sounded simple. It felt impossible. The weeks that followed established a rhythm that was both productive and dangerous. Ethan threw himself into the Meridian Tech campaign, working 12-hour days but always leaving by 5:30 to pick up Lily. Victoria never questioned it, never made him feel guilty, just expected him to make up the time with early mornings and working through lunch. The campaign came together beautifully, sleek, sophisticated, exactly the validation Anderson Meridian craved. When they presented it to the client, Ethan watched Victoria command the room, her pitch perfect, her confidence absolute. Anderson signed off without a single change. You did it, Sarah said afterward, genuine admiration in her voice. He never approves on the first presentation. Never. But it wasn't just Ethan's work. It was the way Victoria had positioned it, the way she'd read Anderson's ego and fed it exactly what it needed. They worked together like musicians who'd been playing the same song for years, anticipating each other's moves, building on each other's ideas. Late nights became common. After Lily went to bed, Ethan would log back in, and often Victoria would still be online, working from home. They'd instant message about campaigns, about strategy, about everything except the thing they both felt building between them. One night, 3 weeks in, the conversation drifted. "You're still awake," Victoria typed at 11:47 p.m. "So are you," Ethan responded. "Insomnia. Old friend. You?" "Thinking. About?" Ethan stared at the cursor, blinking. He should say work, should keep it professional, should not type what he was actually thinking, about how different everything feels now, like I've been sleepwalking for 2 years and suddenly I'm awake. The pause stretched so long Ethan thought he'd crossed a line. Then, "I know that feeling. It's terrifying and wonderful and impossible to ignore. Victoria, don't, not yet. Let's just be careful. Both of us." "Okay. Good night, Ethan. Good night." He closed the laptop and sat in the dark, heart pounding, knowing they were dancing around something that could destroy everything they'd both worked so hard to build. The next morning, Victoria was all business, presenting the timeline for their next major pitch. But when she handed Ethan the brief, their fingers touched, and the jolt of electricity was undeniable. Lily noticed the change in him. Kids always did. "You smile more now," she said one evening while they made spaghetti together. "Like how you used to smile before Mom got sick." Ethan's throat tightened. "I'm happy, sweetheart. The job is good. We're going to be okay." "Is it just the job?" Lily asked, too perceptive, too knowing. "What else would it be?" "I don't know." She twirled spaghetti around her fork thoughtfully. "You just seemed different, like something good happened." Something good was happening. That was the problem. Because the good thing was his boss, was completely inappropriate, was exactly what neither of them could afford to pursue. And yet every day it grew stronger, this pull between them, this recognition of kindred spirits who'd both lost too much and were terrified of losing anything else. 2 months into the job, Hailstone hosted a company holiday party at an upscale hotel downtown. Ethan brought Lily because he couldn't afford a sitter, and she was thrilled to wear the new dress he'd bought with his first real paycheck. The ballroom sparkled with lights and decorations. Lily stuck close to his side, overwhelmed by the crowd, until Victoria appeared in a deep green dress that made Ethan forget how to breathe. "Lily," Victoria said warmly, "I'm so glad you came. There's a room set up with games and snacks for the staff kids. Would you like to see?" Lily looked at Ethan for permission. He nodded, and Victoria led her away, glancing back once with a smile that was just for him. David Park materialized at Ethan's elbow with 2 glasses of champagne. "She's something, isn't she?" "Who?" Ethan asked, playing dumb. "Please. The whole office sees how you two look at each other." David's voice held no judgment, just observation. "Be careful, man. Office romances are complicated enough without the power dynamic." "There's no romance," Ethan said, but the denial felt hollow. "Not yet," David agreed, "but there will be. Question is whether you're both smart enough to navigate it without destroying what you've built." Ethan watched Victoria across the room, laughing with a group of clients, completely in her element. She must have felt his gaze because she looked up, found him immediately, and the smile she gave him was nothing like the one she'd given the clients. It was real, unguarded, vulnerable. David was right, this was inevitable. The only question was when. The answer came on a Tuesday in December, during a late evening when everyone else had gone home. Ethan was working on final revisions for a pharmaceutical campaign when Victoria appeared at his office door. "You're still here," she said. "So are you." She stepped inside, closing the door softly. "I wanted to talk. About us. About what's happening." Ethan's heart hammered. "Victoria, let me finish." She crossed to the window, looking out at the city lights. "I've been alone for a long time, Ethan, by choice. After my marriage ended, I decided it was easier to focus on work, on building something that couldn't leave me. And it worked. For years, it worked." "What changed?" he asked quietly. She turned to face him, and in her eyes he saw the same fear and hope he felt. You. That day in the bathroom when I fixed your tie, I felt something I haven't felt in years, and every day since it's gotten stronger. The way you talk about Lily, the way you fight for your work, the way you look at me when you think I'm not watching. Ethan stood, moving toward her without conscious thought. I shouldn't be looking at you like that. You're my boss. This could ruin everything. I know. Her voice was barely a whisper. But I can't stop thinking about you, about what this could be if we were brave enough to try. They stood inches apart, the air between them crackling with everything unspoken. Ethan could smell her perfume, could see the rapid flutter of her pulse at her throat, could feel the heat radiating from her skin. I have Lily to think about, he said, even as his hand lifted of its own accord, his fingers brushing her cheek. I can't risk her stability for something that might not work. Then we make sure it works. Victoria leaned into his touch, her eyes closing briefly. We're both adults. We can be careful. Professional at work, private outside of it. Take it slow, see where it goes. And if it ends badly, then we handle it like adults. She opened her eyes, pinning him with that fierce, certain gaze. But Ethan, what if it doesn't end at all? What if this is real? He should step back, should thank her for her honesty and maintain appropriate boundaries, should protect himself and Lily from the possibility of more loss. Instead, he kissed her. It was soft at first, tentative, a question neither of them had dared to ask aloud. But when Victoria's hands came up to grip his shoulders, when she made a small sound of need against his mouth, tentative became certain. He pulled her closer, pouring 2 months of restraint and longing into the kiss, and she matched him with equal intensity. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Victoria's lipstick was smudged, and her carefully styled hair was mussed, and she'd never looked more beautiful. We should talk about this, she said shakily. Set boundaries, rules. Tomorrow, Ethan agreed. Right now I just want to hold you. So they stood in his office as the city glittered outside the window, wrapped in each other's arms, both terrified and exhilarated by the line they'd finally crossed. Tomorrow they'd worry about complications. Tonight, they'd just feel. The morning after the kiss arrived with winter rain and the weight of reality. Ethan woke at 5 with his heart racing, replaying every moment, Victoria's lips against his, her hands in his hair, the way she'd whispered his name like a prayer. Then the panic set in. What had they done? What would happen now? His phone buzzed with a text at 5:47 a.m. We need to talk. My place, 7 p.m. I'll send the address. Bring Lily if you need to. No signature, but he didn't need one. His hand shook as he typed back a simple okay, and then stared at the ceiling, wondering if he'd just made the best or worst decision of his life. Work was excruciating. They had a creative review at 10, and Victoria ran it with her usual precision, but Ethan caught the moments when her composure slipped. A glance held too long, fingers trembling slightly as she turned a page, the way she said his name with extra care, like it might shatter if handled roughly. Sarah noticed. During their lunch break, she cornered him in the break room with a knowing look. So, she said, pouring coffee with exaggerated casualness, you and Victoria seem tense today. Just a lot on my mind, Ethan said, too quickly. Uh-huh. Sarah studied him over the rim of her mug. Look, I'm going to say this once because I like you, and I don't want to see you get hurt. Whatever's happening between you two, be smart about it. Victoria's brilliant and fair, but she's also the CEO. The power dynamic alone could destroy both your careers if this goes sideways. Nothing's happening, Ethan said, but the lie tasted bitter. Okay. Sarah's tone suggested she didn't believe him for a second. Just remember, Lily's watching. Kids always know more than we think. The words haunted Ethan for the rest of the day. Lily had already lost so much. If this thing with Victoria imploded, if he lost his job or things got messy, it wouldn't just hurt him. It would devastate his daughter. At 6:30, he picked up Lily from art class, her hands stained with charcoal and her eyes bright with excitement about a drawing she'd made. Can we get pizza? She asked as they walked to the car. Actually, we're going to have dinner with someone, Ethan said carefully. Victoria, from my work. Lily's eyes went wide. The pretty lady from the diner? Yeah, she invited us over. Like a play date? Lily's voice carried a mix of hope and suspicion that made Ethan's chest tight. Sort of. She wants to talk to me about some work stuff, and I thought you might like to see her again." Lily was quiet for a long moment, her small hand in his as they crossed the parking lot. "Dad? Do you like her? Like her?" Ethan stopped walking. They stood under a streetlight in the early winter darkness, and his daughter looked up at him with Sarah's eyes and too much understanding for a 10-year-old. "Would that bother you?" he asked gently.
If I did? Lily chewed her lip, thinking hard. I don't know. Mom said before she died that she wanted you to be happy, that you shouldn't be alone forever, but it feels weird thinking about you with someone who isn't Mom. Ethan crouched down to her level, taking both her hands. Hey, nobody could ever replace your mom. Ever. She was special, and we'll always love her. But that doesn't mean we can't also care about new people. Does that make sense? I guess. Lily's voice was small. Is Victoria nice? Really nice, not just pretending nice. She's really nice, Ethan said honestly. But if this makes you uncomfortable, we don't have to. No, I want to go. Lily squeezed his hands. I want to see if she's good enough for you. The laugh that escaped Ethan was half sob. Come here. He pulled her into a fierce hug, breathing in the smell of her strawberry shampoo and art supplies. I love you. You know that? I know. I love you too, Dad. Victoria's apartment was in a high-rise downtown, all glass and steel and breathtaking views. She answered the door in jeans and a soft sweater, her hair down for the first time Ethan had seen, making her look younger and more vulnerable. Hi, she said, her eyes moving between them. Come in. I ordered Chinese. I hope that's okay. We love Chinese, Lily announced, stepping inside with the confidence of childhood. Whoa, your apartment is huge. It's too big for one person, Victoria admitted. Sometimes I rattle around in here like a ghost. The apartment was beautiful, but strangely impersonal. Expensive furniture, tasteful art, everything perfectly arranged. The only signs of life were the books stacked on the coffee table and a gray cat lounging on the windowsill. That's Atticus, Victoria said when Lily immediately gravitated to the cat. He's old and grumpy, but he likes kids. Lily approached slowly, extending her hand for Atticus to sniff. The cat regarded her with imperial disdain for a moment, then headbutted her palm demandingly. Lily's delighted giggle filled the space, and something in Victoria's expression softened. They ate at the dining table, Chinese food spread out in white cartons, and talked about safe things, school, art class, Atticus's habit of knocking things off counters at 3 a.m. Lily dominated the conversation, telling Victoria about her best friend Emma and the science fair project she was planning about plant growth. You should come, Lily said suddenly, to the science fair. It's in March. Parents are supposed to come, and since your dad's friend... The word friend hung in the air, loaded with implications neither adult knew how to address. I'd love to, Victoria said carefully, if your dad thinks that's okay. It's okay, Ethan said, his heart doing complicated gymnastics. You should come. After dinner, Victoria set Lily up in the den with Netflix and art supplies, then led Ethan to the balcony. The city spread below them, a carpet of light stretching to the horizon. The December wind was bitter, but neither of them seemed to notice. We need to establish ground rules, Victoria said without preamble. Because last night was... a mistake? Ethan's stomach dropped. No. She turned to face him, and her eyes were blazing. The opposite of a mistake. But it can't happen again. Not like that. Not impulsively at the office where anyone could walk in. So what are you saying? Victoria took a breath, and Ethan could see the CEO in her, the woman who made impossible decisions every day. I'm saying I want this. You. Whatever this is between us. But we have to be smart. We need boundaries. What kind of boundaries? At work, we're professional. Completely. No lingering looks, no touching, no hint that we're anything other than colleagues. Her voice was firm, but her hands trembled slightly. Outside of work, we can explore this. Slowly. Carefully. We tell HR that we're seeing each other so everything's documented and above board. We keep Lily's well-being as the priority. And if at any point this starts to affect our work or hurt her, we stop. No questions, no arguments. Ethan processed this, the careful architecture of what she was proposing. You've thought about this.
I've thought about nothing else for 2 months. Victoria's composure cracked, vulnerability showing through. I haven't felt this way about anyone in years, Ethan, maybe ever, but I won't let it destroy what we've both worked for, and I won't hurt Lily. So we're doing this. It wasn't quite a question. If you want to, if you think we can navigate it without... Ethan kissed her, cutting off the worry, the overthinking, the fear. This kiss was different from last night, softer, sweeter, a promise instead of an explosion. When they pulled apart, Victoria's eyes were wet. I lost my husband 8 years ago, she said quietly. Car accident, instant. One day we were planning our future. The next day I was planning his funeral. I threw myself into building Hailstone because it was easier than feeling, safer than loving something that could be taken away. Victoria, wait, let me finish. She pressed her fingers to his lips, gentle but insistent. I thought I was fine alone, convinced myself I didn't need anyone. Then you walked into that bathroom with your crooked tie and your honest eyes, and something in me woke up. Something I thought had died with Michael. And it terrifies me, Ethan, because I can't lose someone I love again. I won't survive it. Ethan took her hands, holding them between his own. I can't promise you forever. I can't promise we won't get hurt, but I can promise that I'll be honest, that I'll fight for this, and that I'll never take you for granted. That's all I've got. It's enough. She leaned her forehead against his, breathing him in. It has to be enough. They stood like that for a long time, holding each other against the cold and the fear and the beautiful, terrifying possibility of what they were beginning. Inside, Lily had fallen asleep on Victoria's couch, Atticus curled against her side. They looked peaceful together, this child who'd lost her mother and this cat who'd lost his person, finding comfort in each other's warmth. She's wonderful, Victoria whispered. You've raised an incredible human. I've tried. Some days I feel like I'm failing. You're not. Victoria's hand found his in the darkness. Trust me on that. Ethan carried Lily to the car, her head heavy on his shoulder, while Victoria walked them down. At the car, she hesitated. The science fair, she said. Did you mean it? About me coming? I meant it. But Victoria, if we do this, if we really try, Lily needs to know. Not everything, but enough. Kids can sense secrets. I know. Victoria touched Lily's hair gently, a gesture so tender it made Ethan's throat tight. We'll tell her together, when it's right. The right moment came 2 weeks later, on a Saturday morning when Ethan invited Victoria to breakfast at the diner where they'd first eaten together. Lily chattered happily about her science project, then paused mid-sentence, looking between them with narrowed eyes. Okay, what's going on? She demanded. You guys are acting weird. Ethan exchanged a glance with Victoria, who nodded slightly. Lily, you know how I've been spending time with Victoria outside of work? Ethan started carefully. Yeah. You went to the art museum last week, and that concert thing. Lily's expression was guarded. So we wanted to tell you that we're dating, like officially. We like each other as more than friends. The silence stretched out. Lily stared at her pancakes, her small hands gripping her fork too tightly. When she finally looked up, tears shimmered in her eyes. Are you going to marry her? The question landed like a bomb. Ethan fumbled for words, but Victoria spoke first, her voice gentle and honest. I don't know, Lily. Your dad and I just started this. We're taking it slow, figuring things out as we go. But I want you to know something important. She leaned forward, meeting Lily's eyes directly. I'm not trying to be your mom. I could never be your mom. She was special, and she loved you more than anything. I'm just someone who cares about your dad and about you. And if you're not okay with that, if this makes you uncomfortable, we need to know. Lily's lip trembled. What if I say I'm not okay with it? Would you stop? Ethan's heart broke, but Victoria answered without hesitation. Then we'd have to figure something else out, because you're the most important person in your dad's life. You come first, always. Lily was quiet for a long moment, her young mind working through impossible adult emotions. Finally, she said, Can I ask you something? Anything, Victoria said. Do you really like my dad? Like, you're not just dating him because he works for you or something?
Victoria's laugh was soft and genuine. Oh, honey, I like your dad so much it scares me. He's kind and smart and talented, and he makes me laugh. He makes me want to be better. And the way he loves you, the way he puts you first in everything, that's the best thing about him. What if you stop liking him? Lily's voice was small, afraid. What if you leave? I can't promise I won't, Victoria said honestly, and Ethan loved her for not lying to spare Lily's feelings. People can't always promise forever, but I can promise I won't leave without a really good reason. And I can promise that even if your dad and I don't work out, I'll still care about both of you. You don't stop caring about people just because things change. Lily considered this, her pancakes forgotten. Then she looked at Ethan. Dad? Are you happy? Like really happy? Yeah, sweetheart, I really am. Okay. Lily took a deep breath, seeming to come to a decision. Okay, you can date, but I have rules. Despite the tension, Ethan had to fight a smile. Rules? Yeah, first, you have to tell me the truth about stuff. No lying to protect my feelings. Second, if you guys fight, you don't do it in front of me. And third, she looked directly at Victoria. If you're going to be around, you have to come to my art show in February, and my science fair. And you have to actually care, not just pretend. Deal, Victoria said immediately, extending her hand for a solemn shake. All of those are very fair rules. Do you have any more? Lily thought hard. Not right now, but I might add more later. That's fair too. They finished breakfast with the tension eased if not completely gone. Lily asked Victoria questions about Atticus, about her job, about what movies she liked. It was tentative, careful, but it was a beginning. Outside the diner, Lily hugged Ethan tightly, then, after a moment's hesitation, gave Victoria a quick, awkward hug too. Thank you, Victoria said softly, for giving us a chance. Just don't mess it up, Lily said with the blunt honesty of childhood, then ran ahead to the car. Ethan pulled Victoria close, kissing her forehead. That went better than I expected. She's protecting herself, Victoria said quietly. Setting boundaries so it doesn't hurt too much if things fall apart. I recognize the strategy because I do the same thing. Maybe we all do, Ethan said. Maybe that's how we survive. The following weeks fell into a new rhythm. At work, they maintained strict professionalism. Though Ethan caught the small moments, Victoria's hand brushing his as she passed him files, the private smile when their eyes met across conference rooms, the way she said his name like it was something precious. Outside work, they built something real. Victoria came to Lily's art show, genuinely admiring the watercolor landscape that Lily had labored over for weeks. They went to movies, to dinners, to the science museum where Lily dragged them through every exhibit. Victoria never tried to insert herself where she didn't belong, never pushed for more than Lily was ready to give, and slowly, carefully, trust began to build. The night everything truly changed was mid-February, a month before the science fair. Ethan had been working late on a campaign when his phone rang at 9:47 p.m. Mrs. Chen from next door, her voice tight with worry. Ethan, I'm sorry to bother you, but Lily's running a high fever and she's asking for you. I gave her medicine, but I think she should see a doctor. He was out the door in seconds, calling Victoria as he ran to his car. I have to leave. Lily's sick. I'm sorry. Go, Victoria said immediately. Is she okay? Do you need anything? I don't know. I have to go. I'm coming over. Text me your address. Victoria, you don't have to come. I'm coming over, she repeated firmly. End of discussion. Lily was curled on Mrs. Chen's couch, pale and shivering despite the blankets. Her fever was 103.2, high enough to worry. Ethan thanked Mrs. Chen, bundled Lily up, and had her in the car when Victoria's Mercedes pulled up. She took one look at Lily's flushed face and said, Emergency room. Now. I'll drive. You hold her. At the hospital, Victoria handled everything Ethan couldn't, checked them in, filled out paperwork, called to get them seen faster. When they finally got a room and the doctor confirmed it was just a bad flu, nothing serious, Victoria held Ethan while he shook with the release of terror. She's okay, Victoria murmured. She's going to be fine. I thought. Ethan couldn't finish.
The memories of Sarah in hospital beds, of watching helplessly as she slipped away, had come flooding back. I know. Victoria just held him, steady and strong. Lily dozed on the hospital bed, IV fluids helping with dehydration. When she woke, groggy and confused, the first thing she said was, "Victoria? You stayed?" "Of course I stayed," Victoria said, moving to the bedside. "Where else would I be?" "I threw up in your car," Lily said miserably. "Cars can be cleaned. You're more important." Victoria smoothed Lily's sweat-damp hair back from her forehead. "How are you feeling?" "Terrible. My head hurts." "I know, sweetie, but the medicine will help soon." Lily's eyes drifted shut again, but her hand found Victoria's and held on. "Thanks for coming," she whispered. "You're pretty cool. For a grown-up." Victoria's eyes went bright with tears. She looked at Ethan over Lily's head, and in that moment, everything shifted. This wasn't just dating anymore, wasn't just testing the waters. This was family, messy and complicated and real. They brought Lily home at 2 a.m., tucked her into bed with Atticus. Victoria had run home and brought the cat, knowing Lily would want the comfort. Ethan made tea while Victoria sat on Lily's floor watching her sleep. "You didn't have to do all this," Ethan said quietly, handing her a mug. "Yes, I did." Victoria took the tea but didn't drink it, just wrapped her hands around the warmth. "Ethan, I need to tell you something." His heart stuttered. "Okay." "I can't have children." She said it flatly, matter of fact, but he heard the old pain underneath. Endometriosis. By the time they caught it, the damage was done. Michael and I were trying when he died. It was one of the things I grieved, not just losing him, but losing the family we'd planned. Ethan sat beside her on the floor, their shoulders touching. "I'm sorry. I made peace with it, or I thought I did." Victoria's voice cracked. "But tonight, holding Lily, watching her trust me to be there, I realized I'm terrified. Not because I can't be a mother, but because I want this so much. I want to be part of your lives, part of her life. And that's huge and scary and, hey," Ethan turned her face toward his gently. "You already are part of our lives. You have been since the day you fixed my tie." "But what if I'm not enough? What if Lily needs things I can't give her? What if—" "Victoria, look at me." Ethan waited until her eyes met his. "Lily doesn't need you to be her mother. She needs you to be you. Honest, caring, showing up when it matters. You've already done that. Tonight proved it." I love you," Victoria said suddenly, desperately. "I know it's too soon and I'm supposed to wait and play it cool, but I love you. Both of you. And it terrifies me." Ethan kissed her, tasting tea and tears and truth. "I love you too. Have since that bathroom, probably. Definitely since the diner. Absolutely since tonight." They held each other on Lily's bedroom floor while their daughter slept, and Atticus purred and the first light of dawn crept through the windows. It wasn't the dramatic declaration of movies, but it was real and messy and perfect. The science fair arrived in March with the kind of anticipation that only elementary school events can generate. Lily had built a project about how different types of music affected plant growth, complete with charts and dying plants that had been subjected to heavy metal. Victoria showed up in jeans and a sweater, looking nervous in a way Ethan had never seen her at work. She carried a bouquet of flowers for Lily and held Ethan's hand as they navigated through the gymnasium. Parents stared. Some whispered. Everyone knew who Victoria Hale was, the CEO, the powerful woman who'd built an empire. Seeing her here at a middle school science fair, holding hands with her creative director and treating his daughter like she mattered must have been quite the sight. Lily spotted them and waved frantically. "You came, both of you!" "Wouldn't miss it," Victoria said, hugging her carefully. "How's the project going? Any questions yet?" Mrs. Patterson already came by and said it was really creative, and Emma's mom asked me about the hypothesis. Lily was practically vibrating with excitement. "Oh, and Dad, you have to see what Emma did. It's about volcanoes, and it actually erupts." As Lily dragged them through the exhibits, chattering excitedly, another parent approached. A woman about Ethan's age, looking both friendly and curious. "Ethan Cole, right? I'm Sarah Martinez's sister, Jessica."
We met at... She trailed off, the unspoken words hanging heavy. The funeral, Ethan finished gently. Of course. How are you? Good. Great. Jessica's eyes moved to Victoria, curiosity evident. I didn't know you were seeing anyone. It's fairly recent, Ethan said, feeling Victoria tense beside him. Jessica, this is Victoria. Victoria, this is Jessica, Sarah's sister. The two women shook hands, and Ethan could feel the assessment happening, Jessica measuring this new woman against her sister's memory. It's nice to meet you, Victoria said quietly. Ethan's told me about Sarah. She sounds like she was an amazing person. She was. Jessica's voice softened. She'd be happy, you know, that Ethan found someone. She made him promise before she died not to be alone forever. Ethan's throat closed. Victoria's hand tightened in his. She was lucky to have you, Jessica said to Ethan. And you were lucky to have her.
But life goes on, right? We have to let it. After she walked away, Victoria turned to Ethan with wet eyes. You okay? Yeah. He pulled her close, not caring who saw. I really am. Lily won third place for her category. She accepted her ribbon with a huge grin, then ran straight to them, launching herself at Ethan for a hug before turning to Victoria. Did you see? I won. Mrs. Patterson said my presentation was really professional. I'm so proud of you, Victoria said, and Lily, without hesitation, without the careful distance she'd maintained, hugged her too. It was just a hug, just a 10-year-old throwing her arms around an adult who'd shown up and cared. But it felt like more. It felt like acceptance, like trust, like the fragile beginning of something that might, with care and time, become love. Later that night, after Lily was asleep with her ribbon pinned to her bulletin board, Victoria sat on Ethan's worn couch and said, I want to tell you something. Ethan's heart sped up. Okay. I want this to be real. Not just dating, not just seeing where it goes. I want us to build something, together. All three of us. She took his hands, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. I know it's fast. I know there are 1,000 reasons to wait. But I'm 43 years old, Ethan. I've spent 8 years being careful, protecting myself, keeping people at arm's length. And tonight, watching Lily hug me like I mattered, I realized I don't want to be careful anymore. I want to be brave. What are you saying? I'm saying move in with me. You and Lily. My apartment's too big anyway, and Lily would have her own room, and we could... Yes, Ethan interrupted. You didn't let me finish. I don't need you to finish. He kissed her, deep and certain. Yes, we'll move in, but on one condition. What? We do this together, equal partners, not boss and employee, not you doing us a favor. We're building this together. Victoria's smile was brilliant, transforming her face. Together. I like the sound of that. They told Lily the next morning over pancakes. She took it better than expected, asking practical questions about her room, about Atticus, about whether she'd have to change schools. When all her concerns were addressed, she looked at them seriously. Can I add another rule? Of course, Victoria said. If we're going to be a family, we do family dinner. Every night we can. No phones, no work. Just us. Ethan felt his heart crack open. Deal. And one more thing. Lily looked at Victoria. Can I call you Victoria? Not Mom, because that's Mom, but also not Ms. Hale, because that's weird. Victoria is perfect, Victoria said, her voice thick with emotion. Lily nodded, satisfied. Okay, then let's do it. Moving day was chaos. Boxes and furniture and Lily's endless questions about where everything should go. Victoria's pristine apartment slowly transformed into something lived in, something real. Art supplies spread across the dining table. Lily's school photos went up on the fridge. Ethan's coffee mugs crowded the cabinets beside Victoria's expensive tea collection. The first family dinner was simple: spaghetti and salad and garlic bread. They ate at the table that now held 3 place settings instead of 1, talking about their days, making plans for the weekend. Atticus wound between their chairs, purring his approval of this new arrangement. After Lily went to bed, Ethan found Victoria on the balcony, looking out at the city. You okay? He asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. More than okay. She leaned back against him. I was just thinking about that day in the bathroom, how terrified you looked, how certain I was that I was done feeling anything for anyone. And now? Now I'm terrified all over again, but for different reasons. She turned in his arms. I'm scared I'll mess this up, that I won't be what Lily needs, that we move too fast. We probably did move too fast, Ethan admitted. But I don't care. This feels right. You feel right. Yeah? Her smile was small, vulnerable. Yeah. They stood there as the city lights flickered on, two people who'd lost everything learning to hope again, building something new from the ashes of their grief. It wasn't the neat, simple love story of movies. It was complicated and messy, and sometimes scary. But it was theirs, and that made it perfect. The first fight happened 3 weeks after they moved in, on a Tuesday night when everything should have been fine, but somehow wasn't. Ethan came home at 7:30 to find Lily crying at the kitchen table and Victoria standing by the sink with her arms crossed, her CEO mask firmly in place. The air crackled with tension. What happened? Ethan asked, dropping his briefcase. She won't talk to me, Victoria said, her voice tight. I asked her to do her homework before dinner and she just shut down. Lily's shoulders shook with silent sobs, her face buried in her arms. Ethan moved to her immediately, crouching beside her chair. Hey, sweetheart. What's going on? I hate it here, Lily choked out. I want to go home. I want our old apartment. I want... Her voice broke. I want Mom. The words hit like physical blows. Ethan glanced at Victoria, who'd gone pale, her carefully constructed composure cracking. Lily, Victoria started, but Lily cut her off. You're not my mom. You can't tell me what to do. You're just Dad's girlfriend, and I didn't even want to move here, and everything's different, and I hate it. Victoria flinched as if she'd been slapped. Without a word, she grabbed her keys and headed for the door. Victoria, wait, Ethan called, but she was already gone, the door closing with a too careful quietness that was somehow worse than a slam. Ethan turned back to Lily, his heart in pieces. That was really hurtful, Lily. Victoria has tried so hard to make you comfortable here. I don't care. But Lily's face crumpled further. Everything's changing too fast and I can't keep up and I'm scared, Dad. What if Victoria leaves like Mom did? What if we lose her too? Understanding crashed over Ethan. This wasn't about homework or the apartment or even Victoria. This was grief and fear dressed up as anger, a 10-year-old trying to protect herself the only way she knew how. He pulled Lily into his lap, holding her while she sobbed. Mom didn't want to leave us, baby. She fought so hard to stay. But she did leave. And what if Victoria does too? What if I get used to her being here and then she's gone? That's what you're really afraid of, Ethan said softly. So you're pushing her away first, before she can hurt you. Lily nodded against his chest, her tears soaking through his shirt. I didn't mean what I said. I like Victoria. I like living here. But it feels like I'm forgetting Mom, and that makes me feel terrible. Oh, Lily. Ethan kissed the top of her head. Loving Victoria doesn't mean you're forgetting Mom. Your heart is big enough for both. Mom would want you to be happy. She'd want us to have this. You think so? I know so. She told me, remember, before she died. She said we should live, not just survive. That we should find joy again. Ethan tilted Lily's chin up gently. But right now, you need to apologize to Victoria. What you said was cruel, even if you didn't mean it. What if she doesn't come back? She'll come back. But she's hurting right now, and she needs space. So we're going to give her that, and then we're going to make this right. Okay? Lily nodded miserably. They ordered pizza and ate in silence, both of them watching the door, waiting. At 9 o'clock, Ethan tucked Lily into bed, her eyes red and swollen. Dad, what if I ruined everything? You didn't. Families fight sometimes. It's what we do after that matters. Victoria came home at 10:15. Ethan was on the couch pretending to watch television, his stomach in knots. She looked exhausted, her makeup smudged, her eyes haunted. I'm sorry, she said immediately. I shouldn't have left like that. It was childish. Sit down. Ethan patted the couch beside him. We need to talk. She sat stiffly, maintaining distance. I know I overreacted. It's just homework, and I shouldn't have pushed her. I'm not her mother. I have no right to eat. Stop. Ethan took her hand. Victoria, this isn't about homework. Lily's scared. She's afraid of losing you like she lost Sarah, so she's testing you, pushing to see if you'll leave. It's not fair, but it's how kids process fear. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. I would never leave her, either of you. Doesn't she know that? She's 10. She doesn't know anything except that people she loves disappear. She needs to know you're not going anywhere, but she also needs to know it's okay to be angry and scared and confused. Ethan squeezed her hand. And you need to know that you're allowed to have boundaries. You're allowed to ask her to do her homework. You're allowed to be part of this family, not just a guest. I don't know how to do this, Victoria whispered. I don't know how to be what she needs. None of us do. We're all figuring it out together. Ethan pulled her close. But you don't get to run when it gets hard. We fight. We work through it. We move forward. That's what family does. Victoria buried her face in his shoulder, her body shaking with silent tears. I'm so afraid of failing you both. You won't. You haven't. Tonight was just hard, that's all. Tomorrow we'll do better. They sat in the darkness, holding each other, two damaged people learning that love meant staying even when everything in you wanted to flee. The next morning, Lily approached Victoria at breakfast with red-rimmed eyes and a carefully folded piece of paper. I made you something, she said quietly, holding it out. Victoria unfolded it to find a drawing. 3 people and a cat standing in front of a building labeled Home, with a sun overhead and flowers at their feet. At the bottom, in Lily's careful handwriting, I'm sorry, thank you for staying. Victoria's hand shook. Lily, I didn't mean what I said. Lily's voice was small but steady. I do like you. I like living here. I'm just scared sometimes. But Dad says that's okay. That you understand scared. I do. Victoria crouched down to Lily's level. Can I tell you something? I'm scared too. I'm scared of messing this up, of not being what you need, of you deciding you don't want me around. So sometimes I might try too hard or not hard enough. But I promise you this. I'm not going anywhere. Even when we fight, even when things are hard, I'm here. Lily studied her face for a long moment, then stepped forward and hugged her. Okay, I'm here too, even when I'm being mean. Victoria laughed through tears. Deal. And Lily, you're allowed to talk about your mom. You're allowed to miss her. You're allowed to have bad days. I'm never going to try to replace her. I just want to be here for you in my own way. Is that okay? Yeah. Lily pulled back, wiping her eyes. Can we have pancakes? Absolutely. Your dad's making them. Life settled into a new normal after that, built on honesty instead of perfection. They established routines, family dinners, game nights on Fridays, Sunday morning pancakes. Victoria learned to navigate Lily's moods, understanding when to push and when to give space. Lily learned that Victoria wasn't going to disappear at the first sign of conflict, but it wasn't always smooth. There were moments when Lily would look at Victoria with Sarah's photos in her hands and say, "My real mom wouldn't do it that way." Sharp and cutting. Moments when Victoria would retreat to the bedroom, overwhelmed by the impossible task of loving someone else's child. Moments when Ethan felt torn between the 2 people he loved most. The breakthrough came in May, on what would have been Sarah's birthday. Ethan woke early, the familiar ache settling in his chest. 3 years since she'd died, but some dates remained sharp as broken glass. He found Victoria already awake, making coffee with quiet efficiency. Today's going to be hard, she said softly. What do you need? I don't know. Ethan leaned against the counter, suddenly exhausted. Lily's going to struggle. She always does on Sarah's birthday. What did you used to do? Before? We'd visit her grave, bring flowers, tell stories about her. Then we'd do something Sarah loved, usually go to the botanical gardens. She was obsessed with orchids. Victoria nodded, processing. Do you want to do that today? I can make myself scarce if you need. No. Ethan caught her hand. I want you there, if you're comfortable with it. Are you sure? I don't want to intrude on... Victoria, you're part of this family. That means the hard days, too. But I need to know. Are you okay with this? With us honoring Sarah? Victoria's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Of course I am. She was important to you. She gave you Lily. I'll never resent that. They told Lily over breakfast. She picked at her cereal, her small face troubled. Can Victoria come? She asked quietly. To see Mom? Ethan and Victoria exchanged surprised glances. Do you want her to come? Ethan asked gently. Lily nodded slowly. I think Mom would like her. She's nice, and she makes you smile. The cemetery was quiet, spring flowers blooming between headstones. Sarah's grave was simple, her name, dates, and the inscription Ethan had chosen. Beloved wife and mother, gone too soon but never forgotten. Lily placed fresh orchids on the grave, then sat cross-legged on the grass. Ethan knelt beside her, and after a moment Victoria sat too, giving them space but staying close. Hi, Mom, Lily said softly. I miss you. A lot. Dad misses you too, even though he doesn't cry as much anymore. She paused, then glanced at Victoria. We have someone new in our family. Her name's Victoria. I think you'd like her. She's teaching me about business stuff, and she lets Atticus sleep in my room even though he's supposed to be her cat, and she makes Dad happy. Is that okay? Ethan's throat closed. He reached for Lily's hand, then for Victoria's, linking the three of them together. I hope you don't think we forgot you, Lily continued, her voice breaking. Because we didn't. We talk about you all the time. Dad tells me stories about when you were in college and did that stupid thing with the chemistry experiment, and I remember stuff too. How you used to sing off key in the car and make chocolate chip cookies on Saturdays, and how you always knew when I was sad even if I didn't say anything. Victoria was crying silently, tears tracking down her face. Ethan pulled both of them closer, his own eyes wet. I love you, Mom, Lily whispered, forever and always. But I love Victoria too. Is that okay? Can I love both? The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of flowers and fresh-cut grass, and in that moment it felt like permission, like blessing, like Sarah saying yes, love them both. That's what hearts are for. They stayed for an hour, telling stories, sharing memories, letting Victoria into the sacred space of their grief. When they finally left, Lily took Victoria's hand naturally, without hesitation. At the botanical gardens, Lily dragged them through the orchid exhibit, pointing out the varieties Sarah had loved. Victoria listened with genuine interest, asking questions, making Lily laugh with her attempts to pronounce the Latin names. In the tropical greenhouse, humid and lush, Lily suddenly stopped in front of a massive orchid display. Victoria? She said, her voice small. Yeah, sweetie? Thank you for not being jealous of my mom. Some people would be. Victoria knelt down, uncaring of her expensive pants on the dirty floor. Your mom gave your dad the best gift anyone could give. She gave him you. I could never be jealous of that. I'm grateful to her. Really? Really? Without her, you wouldn't exist. And you're pretty much my favorite person in the world, so I owe her everything. Lily's smile was tremulous but real. You're my favorite person too, after Dad and Mom, even though she's gone. Is that okay? That you're not first? That's perfect, Victoria said, pulling her into a hug. That's exactly how it should be. That night, after Lily was asleep, Victoria found the photo albums Ethan kept in the closet. Years of Sarah's life, their courtship, their marriage, Lily's early years. She looked at him questioningly. Can I? She asked. I'd like to know her. Really know her. They sat on the couch for hours, Ethan telling stories behind each photograph. Sarah laughing at their wedding. Sarah pregnant with Lily. Sarah weak and bald from chemo, but smiling because Lily had drawn her a picture. Victoria listened to it all, laughed at the funny stories, cried at the sad ones, and never once looked jealous or uncomfortable. She was beautiful, Victoria said softly, studying a photo of Sarah holding newborn Lily. And she raised an incredible daughter in the time she had. That takes something special. She'd like you, Ethan said. She'd be grateful that Lily has you. I hope so. Victoria closed the album carefully. I'm not trying to replace her, Ethan. I know I never could. But I want to honor her by loving Lily the way she deserves, by being someone Lily can count on. You already are. Summer brought changes at work. Hailstone landed 3 major accounts, and Victoria promoted Ethan to senior creative director with a team of 12 reporting to him. The whispers about their relationship had mostly died down, replaced by respect for their professional boundaries and the quality of their work. But the promotion meant longer hours, more responsibility, more stress. Ethan found himself torn between the career he'd always wanted and the family that needed him present.
Victoria understood in ways no one else could, adjusting his schedule when possible, running interference with demanding clients, making sure he made it to Lily's art recital and school events. One night in July, after a particularly brutal week, Ethan came home to find Victoria and Lily in the kitchen, flour everywhere, attempting to make cookies. "We're terrible at this," Victoria announced cheerfully. "Everything's either burned or raw. It's a disaster." Lily giggled, her face smudged with chocolate. "Dad, tell her about the time Mom set the smoke alarm off making brownies." And just like that, they were sharing Sarah's stories, Victoria asking questions, Lily answering with increasing confidence. The ease of it, the naturalness, made Ethan's chest tight with gratitude. Later, after cookies that were somehow both burned and undercooked, after Lily had gone to bed sticky and happy, Victoria found Ethan on the balcony. "I've been thinking," she said, settling into his arms.
About us. About what comes next.
Ethan's heart kicked up.
"Okay. I want to marry you." She said it simply, directly, no preamble. "Not right away. Maybe next summer when Lily's had more time to adjust. But I want us to be official, legal, a real family." Victoria, let me finish. She turned to face him, her eyes serious. "I know it's complicated. I know people will talk. But I don't care. I love you. I love Lily. I want to wake up every morning for the rest of my life knowing that you're both mine and I'm yours. Completely. So I'm asking, will you marry me?" Ethan laughed, the sound surprised and joyful. "You're proposing to me?" "Someone has to. You're taking forever." But her smile was nervous, vulnerable. "So? What do you say?" "I say yes. Obviously yes." He kissed her deeply, tasting chocolate and possibility. "But we do this right. We talk to Lily first, make sure she's really ready. And I'm buying you a ring, a proper one. Because even though you proposed, I'm old-fashioned." "Deal." "But Ethan?" Her voice went soft. "We tell HR before we tell anyone else. We do this completely above board. No surprises." "Agreed." They told Lily the next morning over pancakes, both nervous in a way that seemed ridiculous given everything they'd already been through. "Lily," Ethan started carefully. "Victoria and I want to talk to you about something important." Lily looked up from her pancakes, syrup on her chin, suddenly wary. "What?" "We're thinking about getting married," Victoria said. "Next summer, but only if you're okay with it. This affects you too, and your opinion matters." Lily was quiet for a long moment, processing. "Would I have to call you Mom?" "Only if you want to," Victoria said immediately. "You can keep calling me Victoria forever. That's perfectly fine." "Would you adopt me? Like, legally?" Ethan and Victoria exchanged surprised glances. They hadn't discussed that. "Is that something you'd want?" Victoria asked carefully. "Maybe. I don't know." Lily poked at her pancakes. "I just want to make sure that if something happens to Dad, I don't lose you too. Like legally, you'd have to stay." The fear behind the question broke Ethan's heart. Victoria moved to kneel beside Lily's chair. "Lily, listen to me. Whether I adopt you or not, whether your dad and I get married or not, I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me. Understand?" "Promise?" "I promise. But if it would make you feel safer, we can absolutely talk about adoption. It's a big decision, and we'd all need to think about it carefully. But I would be honored to be your mom, legally or otherwise." Lily threw her arms around Victoria's neck, nearly knocking her over. "Then, yes. Yes, you can marry Dad. And yes, I want you to adopt me. But can I still talk about Mom and visit her grave?" "Always," Victoria said, hugging her fiercely. "Always, always, always." They spent the rest of breakfast planning. Lily had opinions about everything from the dress to the flowers to whether Atticus should wear a bow tie. Her enthusiasm was infectious, washing away the last of Ethan's nervousness. That afternoon, they went ring shopping. Lily took the job very seriously, rejecting half a dozen options before finding the perfect one. A simple platinum band with a small diamond, elegant and understated, just like Victoria. "This one," Lily announced. "It's classy, like her." Victoria tried it on, her eyes bright with tears. "It's perfect." "You're sure?" Ethan asked. "You're okay with Lily picking it?" "I wouldn't want it any other way." Victoria pulled Lily close. "We're a team, right? All three of us." "All four," Lily corrected, pointing at Atticus lounging in the store window. "Don't forget the cat." The engagement announcement at Hailstone was handled through proper channels, HR first, then senior staff, then a company-wide email. The response was overwhelmingly positive, any remaining whispers silenced by their obvious professionalism and the company's continued success. Margaret Chen pulled Ethan aside after the announcement, her expression thoughtful. "I had my doubts," she admitted, "when you started, about whether you could handle the pressure, whether the relationship would compromise your work. I'm glad I was wrong." "Thanks, Margaret." "Don't thank me yet. I'm giving you the Whitman account. $3 million budget, 6-month timeline, their entire global rebrand. It's the biggest account in company history." Ethan's stomach dropped. That's huge." "You can handle it. Victoria and I both agree." Margaret's smile was sharp. "But expect long hours and impossible demands. Think you can balance that with planning a wedding and raising a kid?" "I'll find a way." "Good, because we're betting everything on you. Don't make us regret it." The Whitman account consumed Ethan's life for the next 3 months. 18-hour days became normal. He missed dinners, missed bedtimes, missed the small moments that had become precious. Victoria picked up the slack without complaint, handling Lily's routines, helping with homework, attending parent-teacher conferences alone. But the strain showed. Lily grew quieter, more withdrawn. Victoria's smiles didn't reach her eyes, and Ethan felt himself fracturing under the pressure of being everything to everyone. The breaking point came in October when Ethan missed Lily's birthday party because of an emergency client meeting. He came home at midnight to find Victoria waiting up, her expression carefully neutral. "How'd it go?" he asked, exhausted. Lily cried herself to sleep. She kept asking when you'd be home, and I kept making excuses, and eventually she just stopped asking. Victoria's voice was flat, emotionless. "She's 11 years old, Ethan. She lost her mother. She can't lose you too." That's not fair. This account is important." "More important than your daughter?" The words were quiet but devastating. "Of course not. But this is my career, Victoria. This is what you promoted me to do. I promoted you because you're brilliant, but I fell in love with you because you put Lily first." Victoria stood, wrapping her arms around herself. "I'm not saying quit. I'm saying find balance, delegate, ask for help. But don't miss the moments that matter, because those don't come back." She went to bed, leaving Ethan alone with his guilt and regret. The next morning, Ethan woke Lily early and took her to her favorite diner, the one where they'd first eaten with Victoria. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," he said without preamble. "I'm so sorry I missed your party." Lily shrugged, not meeting his eyes. "It's okay. You were working." "It's not okay. You're more important than any job, any account, any amount of money." Ethan took her hands across the table. "I've been doing exactly what I promised I wouldn't do, putting work ahead of you. That changes now." "How?" Lily's voice was small, hopeful, afraid. "I'm going to delegate more, set better boundaries, make sure I'm home for the important stuff. And if I can't do that and keep this job, then the job has to go." "Really? You'd quit?" "For you? In a heartbeat." And saying it, Ethan realized it was absolutely true. "You're my first priority, always." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "I thought maybe Victoria was more important now, since you're marrying her." "Come here." Ethan pulled her into his lap, uncaring of the other diners watching. "Listen to me. Victoria is important. I love her. But you're my daughter. My Lily. The best thing I've ever done. Nothing changes that. Not work, not marriage, nothing. Got it?" "Got it." She buried her face in his shoulder. I love you, Dad. I love you too, baby. So much. They spent the day together. Mini golf, movies, ice cream for lunch. When they got home, Victoria was working at the dining table. She looked up, relief flooding her face. We need to talk, Ethan said. All of us. They gathered in the living room, Atticus immediately claiming Lily's lap. Ethan took a breath. I've been doing this wrong, he started. Trying to be perfect at work and perfect at home and just making myself crazy. Something has to give. We can make this work, Victoria said immediately. If we plan better. No. Let me finish. Ethan looked at both of them, the two people who mattered most. I'm turning down the Whitman account. It's too much, too demanding. Margaret can give it to someone else. Victoria's eyes widened. Ethan, that's a career-defining account. You can't. I can, and I am. Because no amount of career success is worth missing Lily's childhood, or missing our life together. He reached for Victoria's hand. I want to marry you. I want to build a family with you, but I want to actually be present for it, not just squeeze it in between conference calls. What if Margaret won't accept that? Victoria asked quietly. Then I'll find something else. Freelance again if I have to. We'll figure it out. Lily looked between them, her face anxious. Is this my fault? Because I was upset? No, sweetheart. This is my fault for losing sight of what matters. Ethan pulled her close. But you helped me remember. So thank you. Actually, Victoria said slowly, I have an idea. What if we restructure your role? Keep you as senior creative director, but with a smaller team and more manageable accounts. You'd take a pay cut, but you'd have better hours, more flexibility. You'd do that? I'd rather have you happy and present than miserable and successful. Victoria smiled. Besides, we're getting married next summer. I want my fiancé to actually be around to help plan it. Our wedding, Lily corrected. All three of us, remember? Right, our wedding. Victoria's eyes went soft. All four of us, counting Atticus. They spent the evening planning, not just the wedding, but their life. Family dinners became non-negotiable. Weekends were sacred. Work stayed at work except in genuine emergencies, and every decision, big or small, was made together. It wasn't perfect. There were still hard days, still arguments, still moments when the ghosts of the past made the present complicated. But they faced it together, this strange little family, built from loss and love and the courage to try again. One night in November, Ethan found Lily and Victoria curled up on the couch. Victoria reading aloud from one of Lily's favorite books. They didn't notice him watching, too absorbed in the story. Lily's head rested on Victoria's shoulder, Victoria's arm wrapped protectively around her. And the ease of it, the rightness, made Ethan's throat tight. This was what Sarah had wanted for them. Not to forget her, but to live. Not to be stuck in grief, but to find joy again. Not to be alone, but to be loved. And they were. Imperfectly, messily, beautifully loved. Winter arrived with unexpected gentleness, the kind of season that felt less like an ending and more like a quiet preparation for something new. The apartment that had once felt too large and impersonal now hummed with life. Lily's art projects covering the refrigerator, Ethan's vintage record collection finally unpacked and displayed, Victoria's expensive throw pillows coexisting peacefully with the well-worn couch from Ethan's old place. The wedding planning consumed their evenings in the best possible way. Lily appointed herself chief planning officer, maintaining detailed lists and mood boards with the same fierce dedication she brought to her schoolwork. Victoria indulged her completely, letting her choose everything from the color scheme, soft lavender and cream, because Lily said it looked like spring, to the menu, to whether Atticus would indeed wear a bow tie. He'll hate it, Victoria warned one evening as they sorted through fabric samples at the dining table. But he'll look distinguished, Lily insisted, holding a tiny purple bow tie against Atticus's indifferent face. The cat yawned, revealing sharp teeth, utterly unimpressed by the proceedings. Ethan watched them debate cat fashion, with his heart in his throat. This was his family. These two women who'd somehow found each other through him, who'd built something real out of grief and courage and stubborn hope. Some mornings he still woke up afraid it was a dream, that he'd open his eyes to find himself back in the cramped apartment, alone with Lily, just surviving instead of living. But then Victoria would roll over and kiss him good morning, or Lily would burst into their room demanding pancakes, and the fear would dissolve into gratitude so profound it felt like prayer. The adoption paperwork came through in January, thick manila envelopes from the family court that made everything suddenly, terrifyingly real. They sat together on the couch, all three of them, with the documents spread across the coffee table like a map to an uncertain future. "This is it," Victoria said quietly, her fingers trembling slightly as she touched the papers. "Once we file this, once it goes through, I'll legally be your mother, Lily. We'll be bound together permanently. Are you absolutely sure this is what you want?" Lily picked up the papers, studying them with a solemnity that seemed far too old for 12. "Will I have to change my name from Cole to Hale?" "You can if you want," Ethan said carefully. "Or you can keep Cole, or hyphenate. Whatever feels right to you." "What about Cole Hale?" Lily tested the sound. "Lily Cole Hale. That sounds kind of fancy." Victoria's laugh was watery. "It does sound fancy. Very distinguished. But here's the thing." Lily set down the papers and looked directly at Victoria with those two wise eyes. "I want to keep Cole because that's my mom's name. My first mom, Sarah Cole. I don't want to lose that." "You shouldn't," Victoria said immediately. "That's part of who you are." "I know, but I also want Hale because you're going to be my mom too. My second mom. Is that weird? Having two moms?" "Not weird at all." Victoria pulled Lily close. "Some kids are lucky enough to have two moms who love them. You're one of those kids. Sarah gave you life and loved you first. I get to love you second. That makes us both lucky." "Okay then. Lily Sarah Cole Hale." She grinned suddenly, the weight lifting. "That's a lot of names." "It's a lot of love," Ethan said, his voice rough. "From a lot of people who think you're pretty spectacular." They filed the papers the next day, hands linked as they walked into the courthouse, a united front. The process would take months, the lawyer explained, with home visits and interviews and background checks. But barring any complications, by summer, Victoria would legally be Lily's mother. Walking out into the January sunshine, Lily swinging between them with her hands in theirs, Ethan caught Victoria's eye over their daughter's head. She was crying silently, tears tracking down her face, but smiling wider than he'd ever seen. "Happy tears," she mouthed. "The best kind," he mouthed back. Work shifted in unexpected ways as spring approached. With his reduced schedule and more manageable accounts, Ethan found himself actually enjoying his job again instead of being consumed by it. He mentored younger designers, took longer lunches, left at 5:30 without guilt. The Whitman account had gone to David Park, who handled it brilliantly, and Ethan felt nothing but relief. Victoria thrived too, the stress of hiding their relationship replaced by the freedom of being open. She kept a photo of the three of them on her desk now, from Lily's 12th birthday, all of them laughing at something Atticus had done. Clients commented on it, and she'd smile and say, "That's my family!" With such fierce pride it made Ethan fall in love with her all over again. But not everything was easy. In March, Jessica, Sarah's sister, called asking to see Lily. They'd maintained sporadic contact over the years, birthday cards and occasional phone calls, but this felt different, more urgent. "Mom's not doing well," Jessica explained when they met for coffee, just her and Ethan. "Dementia. She's been asking for Lily. I know it's a lot to ask, but she doesn't have much time left, and she wants to see her granddaughter." Ethan's chest tightened. Margaret Turner, Sarah's mother, had never fully forgiven him for moving on, for bringing Victoria into their lives. She'd made her disapproval clear at every interaction, subtle digs about replacing Sarah, about whether Victoria was really equipped to raise a child. "I don't know, Jess. The last time we saw her, she made Victoria cry. I won't put either of them through that again." "She's different now," Jessica said quietly. "Softer. The dementia has stripped away a lot of the anger. She mostly just talks about Sarah as a little girl, about missing her, and she asks about Lily constantly. Please, Ethan, she's family." He talked it over with Victoria that night, expecting resistance. Instead, she surprised him. "We should go, all of us." "Victoria, she's been cruel to you. You don't owe her anything." "Maybe not, but Lily deserves to know her grandmother, and Margaret deserves to say goodbye to her granddaughter. Besides," Victoria's smile was sad, I understand her anger. She lost her daughter. That kind of grief makes people say things they don't mean. So they went, the three of them, to the nursing home where Margaret lived now. The woman who met them in the sunny common room bore little resemblance to the sharp, critical woman Ethan remembered. She was smaller, frailer, her eyes confused but gentle. "Sarah," she said when she saw Lily, her face lighting up. "Oh, Sarah, you came." Lily glanced at Ethan uncertainly. He nodded, giving permission. "Hi, Grandma," Lily said softly, taking the old woman's hand. "It's Lily, Sarah's daughter." "Lily, of course. You look just like her." Margaret's fingers trembled as she touched Lily's face. She was so beautiful. "Is she here? I'd like to see her." The moment stretched, painful and delicate. Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she held steady. "Mom's not here, Grandma. She passed away, remember?" "Oh." The confusion cleared briefly, replaced by devastating grief. "Oh yes, my baby, my Sarah." Tears slipped down Margaret's weathered cheeks. "I miss her so much." "Me too," Lily whispered. They sat with her for an hour, letting her drift between past and present, answering the same questions over and over with infinite patience. When Margaret's gaze landed on Victoria, she studied her for a long moment. "Who are you?" Not accusatory, just curious. "I'm Victoria. I'm going to marry Ethan, and I'm adopting Lily." Margaret considered this, her mind working slowly through the fog. "You'll be good to them? To my granddaughter?" "I promise. I love them both very much." "Good. Sarah would want that. She always said—" Margaret's eyes went distant, searching for the memory. "She said Ethan shouldn't be alone, that he should find love again. She made me promise to support that. Did I? I can't remember if I kept my promise." Victoria's hand found Ethan's, squeezing tight. "You're keeping it now," she said gently. "That's what matters." When they left, Margaret was sleeping, Lily's hand still in hers. In the parking lot, Lily broke down, sobbing against Victoria's shoulder. "She didn't even remember I exist half the time. And she's dying, and I won't get to know her, won't get to hear stories about my mom." "Hey, hey!" Victoria held her close, stroking her hair. "You did get to see her. You got to hold her hand and hear her say she loves you. That's more than a lot of people get. And I promise you, we'll make sure you know your mom's stories. Every single one." Margaret passed 2 weeks later, peacefully in her sleep. The funeral was small. Jessica, a few cousins, some of Margaret's church friends. Lily read a poem she'd written about grandmothers and memories and how love doesn't end just because people do. There wasn't a dry eye in the chapel. At the reception after, Jessica pulled them aside. "Thank you for bringing Lily to see her. It gave Mom peace, knowing Lily was loved and cared for." She looked at Victoria directly. "I was wrong about you. We all were. Sarah would have liked you." "I hope so," Victoria said quietly. "I know so. She always said Ethan had good taste." Jessica smiled through tears. "Take care of them, of each other." The wedding was set for June, a garden ceremony at a historic estate outside the city. As the date approached, nerves set in for all of them. Lily worried about walking down the aisle without tripping. Victoria worried about whether the adoption would be finalized in time. Ethan worried about his vows, about finding words adequate to express what these two women meant to him. The week before the wedding, the adoption decree arrived. Victoria sat on the floor of their bedroom, the document in shaking hands, crying so hard she could barely breathe. "It's official," she managed. "I'm her mother. Legally, officially, permanently her mother." Ethan held her while she sobbed, joy and grief and relief all tangled together. They'd done it. Against the odds, against convention, against the voice in both their heads that said, broken people couldn't build whole families, they'd done it. That night at dinner, they presented Lily with a gift. A delicate gold necklace with 3 interlocking circles. "One for each of us," Victoria explained, fastening it around Lily's neck. "A family, connected, permanent, unbreakable." Lily touched the circles reverently. "Can I add something?" "Of course. What?" "A 4th circle. For Mom. For Sarah. Because she's part of this too, right? Even though she's not here, she's still part of our family."
Victoria's eyes filled again. That's perfect. We'll take it to the jeweler tomorrow. The night before the wedding, Ethan couldn't sleep. He stood on the balcony at 2 a.m. watching the city lights, thinking about the crooked tie that had started everything. About Victoria's hands fixing it, her eyes meeting his, that first spark of recognition between two broken people who'd somehow found each other at exactly the right moment. Can't sleep either? Victoria appeared beside him, wrapped in a robe, her hair down. Just thinking about tomorrow, about how different life is now. Better different or scary different? Both. He pulled her close. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something to go wrong. It feels too good to be real. I know that feeling. Victoria tilted her face up to his. But Ethan, what if nothing goes wrong? What if we just get to be happy? Doesn't that count as real too? When did you get so wise? When I met a man in a bathroom who couldn't tie his own tie and looked at me like I was capable of miracles. She kissed him softly. You saved me too, you know. I was so lonely before you, so convinced that work was enough, that I didn't need anyone. Then you walked in and reminded me that the best parts of life happen when we're brave enough to let people in. I love you, Ethan said, the words simple but complete. I love you too. Now come to bed. We're getting married in... She checked her watch. 11 hours, and the bride needs her beauty sleep. The wedding day dawned clear and perfect, June sunshine filtering through the trees at the estate. Ethan stood at the altar in his navy suit, the same one from the interview, the tie, finally, perfectly straight, watching as Lily walked down the aisle first, scattering lavender petals, her new necklace with 4 interlocking circles catching the light. Then Victoria appeared, and Ethan forgot how to breathe. She wore a simple ivory dress, elegant and understated, her hair swept up with a few loose curls framing her face. But it was her expression that undid him, pure joy, unguarded love, the smile of a woman who'd found her way home. She walked alone, no one to give her away, because she'd chosen this herself, chosen him, chosen them. When she reached the altar, she took Ethan's hand on one side and Lily's on the other, the three of them standing together before their small gathering of friends and family. The officiant smiled. We're here today to celebrate not just a marriage, but the creation of a family. Ethan, Victoria, and Lily have asked to speak their own vows to each other. Ethan, would you like to begin? Ethan cleared his throat, looking at Victoria with his heart in his eyes. I came to an interview 2 years ago, terrified and desperate, and you fixed my tie. Such a small thing. But in that moment, you saw me, really saw me, and decided I was worth the risk. You've been taking risks on me ever since, believing in me when I didn't believe in myself, loving my daughter like she's your own, building a life with me when you could have chosen safety and solitude. You make me braver, you make me better, and I promise to spend the rest of my life earning the faith you've shown in me. I love you, Victoria Hale, completely, permanently, with everything I am. Victoria's tears spilled over, but she was smiling. Ethan, you walked into my life when I'd convinced myself I was fine alone. You were honest and scared and so full of love for your daughter that it broke through every wall I'd built. You reminded me that hearts can heal if we're brave enough to try. That family isn't just about blood. It's about showing up and choosing each other every day. I choose you, today and always. I love you with everything I am and everything I hope to be. Then Victoria turned to Lily, taking both the girls' hands in hers. Lily, Sarah Cole Hale, you're the bravest person I know. You've let me into your heart even though you'd already lost so much. You've taught me about grace and forgiveness and how love multiplies instead of dividing. I promise to honor your mother's memory, to tell you stories about her, to make sure you always know how deeply she loved you. I promise to show up for you, for school plays and science fairs and teenage heartbreaks and college applications and everything in between. I promise to be honest with you, to respect you, and to love you fiercely for all of my days. You are my daughter, not because of paperwork, but because of choice, mine and yours. And I am so proud to be your mom. But Lily was crying openly now, but when the officiant nodded to her, she pulled out the paper where she'd written her own vows. Victoria, she read, her voice shaking but clear. When Dad first told me about you, I was scared. I thought you'd try to replace my mom, or that I'd have to choose between loving you and loving her. But you showed me that hearts are big enough for both. You never tried to be my mom. You just were. By showing up and caring and being patient when I was mean or scared. You made our family bigger instead of different. And I'm really glad Dad's crooked tie brought you into our lives. I love you. And I promise to remember that you chose me too, that being a family was something we all decided together. Thank you for being my second mom, my bonus mom, my Victoria. There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. The officiant had to pause to wipe his own tears before continuing with the ceremony. When he finally pronounced them married, when Ethan kissed Victoria as their friends and family cheered, Lily squeezed between them, wrapping her arms around both. "Group hug," she announced, and they stood there, the three of them holding each other, laughing and crying and whole. The reception was everything a wedding should be: good food, terrible dancing, toasts that were both heartfelt and hilarious. David Park gave a speech about how Victoria and Ethan were the most professional people he'd ever worked with, except for the way they looked at each other during meetings. Sarah Martinez roasted them both lovingly. Jessica stood up unexpectedly and toasted to Sarah, who would have loved this day, and to Victoria, who made it possible. As the sun set and fairy lights twinkled in the trees, Ethan found himself on the dance floor with Victoria, swaying to a slow song while Lily danced nearby with Atticus in a carrier strapped to her chest. The cat had indeed worn a bow tie and looked magnificently annoyed about it. "Happy?" Victoria asked, her head on his shoulder. "Deliriously. You?" "More than I ever thought possible." She pulled back to look at him. "Do you remember that first night, after we kissed in your office? You said you couldn't promise me forever." "I remember." "Well, I'm holding you to it now. I want forever with you. Every messy, complicated, beautiful moment of it." "Deal." Ethan kissed her softly. "Forever sounds perfect." Years passed the way they always do, in a blur of ordinary moments that somehow added up to an extraordinary life. Lily graduated middle school, then high school, growing into a remarkable young woman with Sarah's kindness and Ethan's creativity and Victoria's fierce determination. She got into art school, her portfolio showcasing years of work that showed real talent. The night before she left for college, Lily found Victoria alone in the kitchen, making tea at midnight. "Can't sleep?" Lily asked. "Empty nest jitters," Victoria admitted. "I know you're only going 2 hours away, but it feels huge, Sek." "I know, for me too." Lily sat at the counter, the same spot where they'd had so many conversations over the years. "Can I tell you something?" "Always. I used to worry that I didn't grieve my mom enough, that loving you meant I'd forgotten her or moved on too fast. But I realized something. Letting you love me wasn't about forgetting Mom. It was about letting myself be happy again, about trusting that I could survive loss and still open my heart. You taught me that." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "Oh, Lily, I just wanted to say thank you for being patient with me, for loving Dad, for choosing to be my mom even though you didn't have to. You saved us, Victoria. You saved our whole family." "You saved me too," Victoria whispered. "Both of you. I was so lost before you." They held each other in the quiet kitchen, mother and daughter, not by blood, but by choice, by love, by the courage to build something new from broken pieces. A decade after the wedding, Ethan found himself in the same hallway where it all began. Hailstone had moved to a bigger building, but they'd kept the original offices for sentimental reasons. He stood before a mirror, straightening his tie before a major presentation. Victoria walked by, stopped, smiled that same private smile from all those years ago. "Your tie's crooked," she said. "Is it?" Ethan grinned. "Maybe you should fix it." She stepped close, her fingers working the silk with practiced ease. They were both older now, gray in Victoria's hair, lines around Ethan's eyes, but the spark was still there, that electric current that had never faded. "You know," Victoria said softly, "I've been fixing your tie for 14 years now. You'd think you'd have learned by now. Maybe I like having you fix it. Maybe I like fixing it." She smoothed down the tie, her hands lingering. "There. Perfect." "Not quite." Ethan pulled her closer, kissing her thoroughly despite the professional setting. "Now it's perfect." Still
Still can't believe you're staring at me in the office, Mr. Cole-Hale. Still can't believe you married me, Mrs. Cole-Hale. He'd taken her name too when they married, a hyphenation that linked all three of them permanently. Best decision I ever made, fumbling with this tie that day. Best decision I ever made, stopping to help a terrified man in a hallway. Victoria's eyes were soft with memory. Who knew a crooked tie would lead to this? To what? To everything. To you. To Lily. To a family. To a life that's messy and imperfect and more beautiful than anything I could have planned. She took his hand, linking their fingers. To second chances. To second chances, Ethan echoed, and to women who see potential in crooked ties and broken men. You were never broken, Victoria said firmly. Just bent, just grieving, just human, and absolutely perfect exactly as you were. They stood in that hallway where their story began, no longer strangers bound by circumstance, but partners bound by choice. The interview that brought them together was a distant memory, replaced by thousands of ordinary moments: morning coffee, bedtime stories, family dinners, inside jokes, quiet support during hard times, loud celebration during good ones. Lily was thriving at college, calling every Sunday to share her week. She had a boyfriend Victoria had already vetted thoroughly and approved cautiously. She was happy, healthy, whole, a testament to the family that had wrapped around her and held her up when she couldn't stand alone. In the end, that's what family was. Not perfection, not replacing what was lost, but showing up, choosing each other, building something new while honoring what came before. Love that multiplied instead of divided. Hearts brave enough to risk breaking again because the alternative, staying closed, staying safe, staying alone, was no life at all. The crooked tie had been a beginning, a spark, a moment of connection between two lonely people. But what they'd built from that moment was so much more. A marriage, an adoption, a family knit together from grief and hope and stubborn, beautiful love. As they walked back to their respective offices, hands linked until the last possible moment, Ethan thought about the man he'd been that day in the hallway, terrified, desperate, convinced he'd never feel anything but grief again. If he could go back and tell that man what was coming, he wouldn't believe it. Wouldn't believe that the woman fixing his tie would become his wife, his partner, his best friend. Wouldn't believe that his daughter would have 2 mothers' worth of love. Wouldn't believe that happiness was possible after such devastating loss. But it was. It is. Because hearts that break can also heal, and people brave enough to try again can build something extraordinary from the ashes of what they lost. That evening, Ethan came home to find Victoria and Lily in the kitchen. Lily home for spring break, the 3 of them together again. They were making Sarah's chocolate chip cookie recipe, the one Lily had found in an old box of her mother's things. Flour covered every surface. Something was burning. Atticus watched from a safe distance with profound judgment. "We're terrible at this," Victoria announced cheerfully, exactly like she had years ago. "Disastrous," Lily agreed, grinning. "But we're trying." "That's all that matters," Ethan said, wrapping his arms around both of them. Trying, showing up, being together. They ate the burnt cookies anyway, laughing at how awful they were, telling stories about Sarah, who had also burned these cookies regularly, and building new memories on top of old ones. This was family, imperfect and messy and full of love. This was home, built from a crooked tie, a moment of kindness, and the courage to believe in second chances. This was everything, and it was enough.